This is Senorita Walker, and we are talking about preterite irregular verbs, specifically NAIP verbs. And that stands for no accents, irregular preterites. So these are preterites without any accents in them. Now, obviously, to conjugate an irregular verb, a previous skill that's necessary is to conjugate a regular or normal verb. Here are the endings, which are conveniently the same for AR, ER, and IR verbs. And something special to note is that F verbs and J verbs, we'll get to that in a second, those instead of ending ieron and eron. And again, to repeat, there are no accents in any of these preterite verbs we're going over right now. The 5 categories are F verbs, J verbs, I verbs, PS verbs, and U verbs. And there are 14 main verbs, although you can see in parentheses there are a couple different verb types and extra verbs for these. Make sure you copy down these charts in your notes. This is something I want you to have. These are the F verbs and the J verbs. So named because obviously ir and ser don't start with F, but now they do. Also convenient about ir and ser are that they are both the same form. Fui, fuiste, fue. Fuimos, fuistes, fueron. Now for J verbs, a letter either changes to J or the J gets added in. So for all these 3 verbs, that is the case. For both these categories, F verbs and J verbs, again remember, normally eos endings is ieron, but in this case for these verbs it is eron. This is why. Let's say you had the verb ser and the form was eos. Normally, if you wrote out the endings, ieron would be your regular end. But we never like having 3 vowels in a row. So that is why it changes to fueron. Takes that I out. Alright, these are the I verbs, and I'll be adding ver back in. Now, the I verbs that we use mainly are hacer, venir, and querer. You should be able to tell that these are nicknamed I verbs because the letter either changes to I, or again, an I is added in. Now, dar and ver I've put in this category simply because they have I's in the endings. Dar, you would not conjugate it as an AR. In this case, you conjugate it as an ER, IR verb. Ver, this is normal, except it doesn't have accents. So really, these don't need to be in this category, but it's good to know what they are. And these ones, obviously, like I said, the stem changes to the letter I. And in hacer, please note that these are all C's. They stay C's like normal. But in the L, A, I, and usted form, the C changes to a Z. This is the only case where this one does that. So this should be quisimos, quisistes, and quisieron for querer. That looks mainly like it makes sense. Alright, now we are talking about PS and UV verbs. If you need a minute, pause to copy this down. I know this is kind of a lot of verb charts at one time. Hopefully you have had a chance to copy this down now. You can pause the video to do that. I nickname these PS verbs because these main 3 either start with a P or an S. And technically you can also call these verbs U verbs because there is a vowel in the middle that changes to a U. So we have poder, poner, and saber. And then caber and haber are not the main verbs. Like dar and ver are kind of extras. Caber and haber are also extras in this case. And for UV verbs, again, hopefully you're noticing a pattern. Something either changes in the stem, like tener becomes UV in the stem, or in these, for estar and andar, it adds a UV in the stem, hence the nickname UV verbs. And I have eat up here by UV verbs because estar, andar, tener, EAT. So hopefully that'll help you remember what are the 3 UV verbs. Alright, now I'd like you to do a little practice. So please check these out, pause the video, and we'll go over these answers shortly. Alright, hopefully you've had a chance to pause and work through these, so we're going to talk through them now. Tu no poder. Poder is a PS verb, so it's going to change to a U. Instead of podiste, it'll be pudiste, and we already have our no right there. For ella traer, that is a J verb, so that's going to be trajo. No accent is necessary for any of these preterites. Yo ir is going to be fui. Jim y Bob, we're talking about 2 guys, so ellos. Conducir, this is a J verb, so instead of, we would write condu is our stem. Now you would normally write ieron, but since this is a J verb, the ending is eron. Condujeron. Number 5, yo y Tom, me and Tom, so we. Subject is nosotros. Saber, that is a PS verb, so instead of S-A-B, it's going to be S-U-P, like soup. Supimos. El dar, you would normally think this is de, that's de do, but in this case, it's conjugated as an ER-IR verb, so dio. No accent, because it is irregular. Todos de nosotros, that's all of us, so we, it's still we. Poner, this is a PS verb. Imos is the ending that you add. Tu y Martín, that's you and Martin, you're talking to them, so you'll say y'all or vosotros. Estar is a UV verb, so you add in UV. Estuve, and then istes. Ellos, tener, this is another UV verb, so it's going to be tuvieron. And 10 is a little tricky, so hopefully you got it. Mi amiga me dijo. My friend is the subject. She told me. So if you conjugate it as dije, you're close, but the subject is still my friend. She told me. Dijo. Alright, hopefully you are all set on preterite irregular NAIP verbs.